The radical, fundamental principles of freedom, rational self-interest, and individual rights. This is the Yaron Brook Show.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Yaron Brook Show on this, Friday, December 5th. I hope everybody's having a great week. And looking forward to the weekend. Here in Puerto Rico, Friday is almost over, 3:30 p.m. Being an hour ahead of the East Coast is kind of weird. But it is what it is. And all right, let's jump in. I'll remind you, you can ask questions. That way we can shape part of the show. If you have complaints, comments, disagreements, you can use the Super Chat to express yourself. And support the show at the same time. Make this possible. Make yourself a trader so that it's a trade, win-win. So the Trump administration today, this morning, released its national security strategy document. No big fanfare, no big press conference. Trump didn't make a big deal out of this. Really interesting, that it kind of snuck in like that without a lot of fanfare. But this is kind of the guiding principles for American foreign policy moving forward. And as we'll see, it's more than just American foreign policy. It even touches on domestic policy. It is a strategic document. It's supposed to be big picture strategy. This is something every administration typically puts out. Famously, George Bush had one that was called Forward Strategy for Freedom, which I did a whole talk. I did a whole talk on criticizing, and actually an essay with Ilan Journo, which made it into Ilan Journo's book, Winning the Unwinnable War, where I was critical of George Bush's Forward Strategy for Freedom. This document, this strategic plan is relatively short. It's 33 pages. And it's thin on details. And there's quite a few glaring things that are absent from it, which we will discuss. So we're going to spend most of our time going over this document. I actually, for your benefit, have it up on screen so you can actually look at it. It starts way over here, National Security Strategy of the United States, 2025. It has a foreword by Donald Trump, which is not worth really reading. An introduction, what is American strategy, defined strategy, which is all good stuff. And then, we'll jump into what should the strategy be? What are the goals? What should America want is the way to present it. And let me just say, this is a heavily mixed document. It's got some passages that are great. It's actually got one line that I think they stole from me at some point. I'll point that out when we get to it. It's got some basically good stuff in it, and it's got a lot of bad stuff in it, and most of it is just blah. Mostly it's just not neither here nor there. And it's got a lot missing. And I think, I'll just say this, the thing missing most from it is any sense, and I know, which actually George Bush's document did have, and this one does not have, any sense of good and evil, any sense of good countries, bad countries, just, unjust, anything like that. It has none of that. It is really, here are American interests, and this is what we're going to pursue. And all countries have interests, and all countries will pursue their interests, and that's okay. And that's the tone of it. The tone of it is values-free, at least universal value-free. And in that sense, it is very much reads like a document. And let's be clear, not written by Donald Trump. This is not a Trumpist document, although it has element of it to appease him. This is a document really written by elements within the Department of Defense, Department of War, that are influenced clearly by the national conservative movement. So this is a document that'll please the national conservatives. It's got strong national conservative elements in it. It's supportive of kind of in a nuanced way the national conservative agenda, and then generally a nationalist agenda, but a national conservative agenda in particular. So we will go over this. So we'll start with, what do we want? What does America want? Well, first and foremost, it says, we want the continued survival and safety of the United States as an independent, sovereign republic whose government secures the God-given natural rights of its citizens and prioritize their well-being and interest. Okay? That is good, right? Except for the God-given part and God-given natural rights. Every time they talk about rights, which is 2 or 3 times, it's always God-given natural rights. It's always God-given natural rights. So again, consistent with kind of national conservatives, consistent with Christian conservatives, the emphasis is on God-given. I guess to differentiate from the government-given rights that the left would argue for. So here they have to make the case that it's, our rights are God-given as compared to whatever. So that's good. Yep, want to protect the independence, want to protect the sovereignty, and we certainly want to protect rights. Rights should be the integrating part of this. It's just one of the many things, so they don't quite understand rights, but that's okay. It's not the worst thing here. We want to protect this country, its people, its territory, its economy, and its way of life from military attack and hostile foreign influence. Yes. Whether espionage, predatory trade practices. So we want to protect the country, its people, its territory, its economy from predatory trade practices. Interesting. This is a foreign policy agenda. Drug and human trafficking. Destructive propaganda. Who gets to decide which propaganda is destructive and which propaganda is not destructive? And influence operations. Cultural subversion. We don't want cultural subversion. So we're going to use a foreign policy to stop predatory trade practices, whatever the hell those are. I mean, the easiest thing to stop predatory trade practices is just not to do them. If it's predatory, just don't trade. It's easy. I don't engage in predatory trade practices because I won't trade with people trying to take advantage of me. Just leave it to Americans. They're pretty good at that. Drugs, we talked about it in other contexts about why drugs is not an appropriate goal of the American government. And propaganda, influence, and cultural subversion is very dangerous territory for the government to get involved in, identifying it and defining what it is. The best thing is to let ideas rip. We want full control over our borders, over our immigration system, and over transportation networks through which people come into the country. Not surprising, you'll see in this document, immigration plays a huge role. Immigration is the source of our problems, and immigration is a key feature of what our foreign policy should be. We want resilient national infrastructure. Yeah, I'm all for resilient national infrastructure, although the best way to make it resilient is to sell it to the private sector, encourage competition. We want to recruit, train, equip, and field the world's most powerful, lethal, and technologically advanced military. And now, listen to this and tell me if this isn't stolen from something I've said or written in the past. To protect our interests, deter wars, and here's where it gets, if necessary, win them quickly and decisively with the lowest possible casualties to our forces. I mean, that's like a direct quote from me. Quickly and decisively with the lowest possible casualties to our forces. I couldn't agree more. I agree with that statement 100%. That's perfect. And if only I believed that they would live up to it, I would embrace it completely. And of course, I don't believe that they will go to war when it's appropriate and not go to war when it's not appropriate. I don't believe anything they could do. But wars, that's exactly how they should be fought. And I said so first. So who knows who had some hand in writing this that might have read something that I've written or listened to me in the past. I've been doing this for a long time. A lot of people have heard my stuff, particularly on foreign policy. We want the world's most robust, credible, and modern nuclear deterrent. Yeah, and including Golden Dome for American homeland. Yes, no question. We want the world's strongest, most dynamic, most innovative, most advanced economy. How do you get that? I mean, this is a big question, right? How do we get the most dynamic, most innovative, most robust economy, advanced economy? What does that come? Where does that come from? How does that happen? I mean, I'll tell you right now, the document does not say. We know, people listening to this show know what I think at least, and that is capitalism, freedom, free markets. Get the government the hell out of markets. Stop trying to centrally plan. Stop trying to manage the economy. Stop trying to tell us who to trade with and whom not. Stop trying to tell us what we should and shouldn't make. Stop trying to manipulate the economy. That's how you get the world's strongest and most dynamic, most innovative, and most advanced economy. Indeed, we innovate and we're advanced and we're dynamic in direct proportion to the lack of regulation and control. But that they're not going to say. They're not going to say because that would upset too many people within administration. We want the world's most robust industrial base. Really? I'm not sure that's true. We want the most robust economy, most dynamic, most innovative. Whether that leads to the industrial base, that might retard American growth because it will misallocate capital. We want the most robust, productive, and innovative energy sector. Yeah, probably happens anyway. All you need to do is get out of the way. It goes back to what I said before. We want the world's most scientifically and technologically advanced and innovative country. Yeah, again, freedom achieves that. And maybe, not stopping all the funding to the things, to science would be helpful here, at least until you create a kind of a private alternative to it. I don't know. It doesn't seem like the Trump administration is taking that one very seriously. We want to maintain the United States' unrivaled soft power through which we exercise positive influence. Soft power is when you don't have to go to war. You don't have to use weapons. People listen to you because they respect you. They like you. Because they know you represent important values and it's worth it. How do you achieve soft power? By gaining respect from other countries. Do you think Trump has done that over the last 9 months, 10 months? Tariffs undermine soft power. His wish-washiness, his corruption, his groveling before dictators does not encourage soft power. It actually weakens soft power. It writes, in doing so, we will unapologetic about the country's past and present, while respectful of other countries' differing religions, cultures, and governing systems. Why should you be respectful of other countries' religions, cultures, and governing systems? This sounds like a leftist subjectivist document. This sounds like you want to be friends with the Qataris and you don't want to criticize their religion, culture, and governing. It sounds like this means you want to be friendly with Putin and not challenge his governing system. It sounds like you want to be friendly with Xi. But by doing all that, are you really going to enhance soft power? So here they want to differentiate themselves from neocons who supposedly, I wish, actually took the position that, no, we have the right political system and we should encourage other people to adopt it as well, and we shouldn't. We should take into account differing religion, culture, and governing systems. Finally, we want the restoration and reinvigoration of Americans' spiritual and cultural health. So do I. Without which long-term security is impossible. We want people who are proud, happy, and optimistic that they will leave their country to the next generation better than they found it. I want that too, although the stuff about the next generation is less important to me. But I want that too. This is great. How do we do that? How do we do that? Capitalism, freedom, respect for the Constitution, respect for individualism, respect for individual rights, a renewed respect for what made this country great, not through their tribalism and their mindlessness and their emotionalism. Freedom. What do we want in and from the world? Oh, now we're getting into foreign policy. In and from the world. This is great. We want to ensure that the Western Hemisphere remains reasonably stable. So here's a strategic shift that is happening from previous documents like this. And there's a real shift from George Bush's document from 2017, the last time we got last time we got a Trump strategy. There's a real shift. In the 2017 document, Western Hemisphere gets a brief mention, one page, general corporation, something. Now, Western Hemisphere is the heart of it. We're establishing a new Monroe Doctrine. We want to ensure the Western Hemisphere remain reasonably stable, well-governed, enough to prevent and discourage mass migration. Because that's the real threat to America. If only we could get rid of those brown-looking migrants, everything would be so much better. So much better. We want the hemisphere's governments cooperate with us against narco-terrorists, cartels, and other transnational criminal organizations. Yeah, that's the problem in America. It's the other. I told you that. It's immigrants and narco-terrorists. We want a hemisphere that remains free of hostile foreign incursions or ownership of key assets, and that supports critical supply chains. We want to ensure our continued access to key strategic locations. In other words, a Monroe Doctrine. Now, we can talk about whether the Monroe Doctrine is appropriate in the 21st century, where the American Navy basically has global reach, whether the Western Hemisphere is any different than any other hemisphere. It is true that the one thing that the Western Hemisphere has that other countries do not have is direct access to the American homeland. That is direct access to immigrants. They can just walk in. And direct access to drug cartels. They can smuggle the drugs in. So, yes, the Western Hemisphere, given their priorities, which are immigration and drugs more than anything else, should be a big deal. But given that our borders are with Mexico and Canada, in terms of national security, let me emphasize, national security, the Western Hemisphere is pretty secure. Yeah, I mean, we have peaceful borders both in the south and in the north, and no risk of invasion. And whatever problems we have with immigration and with drugs, those problems are 100% self-inflicted. If we had a rational immigration system, there would be no mass migration of people flowing in illegally. If we had a rational policy regarding drugs, there would be no narco-terrorists. We have created the problems that this administration thinks are the number one problems that we face and need to be addressed. We created them. Document goes on. We want to halt and reverse the ongoing damage that foreign actors inflict on American economy while keeping the Indo-Pacific free and open. Foreign actors inflict damage on the American economy? How? How do they do that? Oh, I know. I know how they do that. By trading with us. How frigging dare they? They trade with us, and by doing so, they inflict damage on us. I'm worse off for trading with somebody. This is zero-sum thinking of the worst kind, perceptual level mentality of the worst kind. We want to support our allies in preserving the freedom and security of Europe. Europe, as a real role here, we'll see the strategy around Europe is really important. So notice, support our allies in preserving the freedom and security of Europe. That sounds fantastic, yes. While restoring. America is going to restore Europe's civilizational self-confidence and Western identity. Now, I am all for restoring Europe's civilizational self-confidence and Western identity. And I'm all for doing that because I think it's really, really crucial. But what does Trump's people, because Trump doesn't think, what does Trump's people think Europe's civilizational self-confidence and Western identity means? What do they think that means? I'll tell you what they think that means. They think that means Christianity. They won't write it here, but that's what they think it means. Not reason and individualism. They think it means Christianity with closed borders. Right-wing Christianity, not left-wing Christianity like in Europe. So they want to bring civilizational self-confidence and Western identity. What was that thing that Matt Walsh wrote yesterday about how things are worse off in every dimension in the world right now? That's what they want to bring back. And we want to ensure that U.S. technology and U.S. standards, particularly in AI, biotech, and quantum computing, drive the world forward. We want to ensure that U.S. technology and U.S. standards, particularly AI, biotech, and quantum computing, drive the world forward. Yeah, me too. Me too. Yeah, freedom, capitalism. All right. What America's available means to get what we want, what we have that makes it possible. And this is fascinating. What are our advantages? We have a nimble political system. Nimble, that's what they call it, nimble. We have the world's largest and most innovative economy, leading financial system, advanced and most innovative, powerful and capable military, broad network of alliances, enviable, not so much with Trump, enviable geography, unmatched soft power, courage, willpower, and patriotism of the American people. Anybody notice anything here missing from the things that make it, was it again? What makes us special? What makes it possible for us to have this position? What makes all this possible? Have you noticed anything that's missing? What's missing is what America is, freedom. What's missing is individual rights. What's missing is capital C, capitalism. What's missing is freedom. Freedom. But remember, people in Trump universe don't understand why America's rich. They have no conception of what America is. Yeah, Jennifer says the idea of America, absolutely. What they're missing is the idea of America, which is what makes all this possible. But they don't know what that is. They have no idea. Indeed, they want to undermine it and undercut it. So to them, these are just concretes that appear. Oh, we're rich. Cool. How did we get rich? We're Americans. That's how we got rich. We're just Americans. We have the right genes. Something. I don't know. So the whole idea of what America is, its nature, it goes back to this here about Europe. They want a civilizational self-confidence and Western identity. What the hell is that? Do they know? Enlightenment? Again, to them it's Christianity. We're rich because we're Christian. Other people are Christian, not rich. Well, they don't have the right Christianity. In addition, through President Trump's robust domestic agenda, the United States is reinstalling a culture of competence. How is it doing that? By rooting out DEI. That's how we get back to competence. Now, rooting out DEI is good, but is that enough? Unleashing our enormous energy production. Good. Reindustrializing our economy. Interesting, given that manufacturing has declined every month since Trump took office. Literally every month. And it's not getting better, it's getting worse. Less industrial jobs, less industrial capacity, less stuff being made every month since Trump became president. So he's not reindustrializing, he's deindustrializing, unindustrializing, whatever the hell the word is. Returning economic freedom, the only time freedom appears anyway, to our citizens. Really? The economic freedom to trade with whoever we want? We have lowered taxes, true, but we've also increased taxes, called tariffs. We've deregulated, but not in any big, significant way. And then finally, investing in emerging technologies and basic science. I thought Trump was cutting back on investment in basic science quite dramatically, actually. They lie. What's new? Okay, what's the strategy? I love this sentence. This is great, right? We're going to be pragmatic without being pragmatist. We're going to be realistic without being realist. We're going to be principled without being idealistic. We're going to be muscular without being hawkish, and restrained without being dovish. It is not grounded in traditional political ideology because we are America first. Now, if you understand what the hell that means, good for you, because I have no clue, and I guarantee you the people who wrote it have no clue either. They have no idea what they just wrote. So what are we going to do? So far, President Trump has proven that American foreign policy, defense and intelligence policies, whoops, right there, must be driven by the following basic principles. Focused definition of national interest. That is absolutely true. But I don't see that happening. The national interest is some smorgasbord of anti-immigration, anti-trade, anti-drugs, strong military combination, and don't touch our Western Hemisphere. Peace through strength. I support peace through strength. I wish they took it seriously. Predisposition to non-intervention. This is interesting. We're predisposed not to intervene unless we want to. Right? This is really interesting. This one sentence of this document, which I think undermines a lot of what they write in the rest of the document. It says, in the Declaration of Independence, America's founders laid down a clear preference for non-interventionism in the affairs of other nations and made it clear that the basis, here, and this is the sentence, just as all human beings possess God-given equal natural rights. What? All human beings possess God-given equal natural rights? Let me read that again. All human beings possess God-given equal natural rights? You mean immigrants do? You mean even illegal immigrants possess God-given equal natural rights? Equal to everybody else, including to citizens? Wow. I guess if you're a drug dealer, you don't possess, but it says all human. It doesn't say unless you're doing something Trump doesn't like. It's not in parentheses. All human beings. That means including non-Americans. They all possess God-given equal natural rights. And then it says all nations are entitled by the laws of nature and God and nature's God to a separate and equal station with respect to one another. Really? Is that what the founders really meant? And how is that consistent with all human beings possessing God-given equal natural rights when some nations violate those rights? Are they then equal? And should they have equal station? Should Nazi Germany had equal station with America because the laws of nature and nature's God require it? I mean, this is bizarre. Bizarre. The first statement is true. All human beings do possess natural rights, equal natural rights. That is the cornerstone of America. It's the cornerstone of what makes America America. And this administration violates that principle in almost everything that it does. But this idea that all countries should be treated equally is absurd. And here it continues. For a country whose interests are as numerous and diverse as ours, rigid adherence to non-interventionism is not possible. So we might intervene sometimes. We're just not going to tell you when, and we're not going to lay out a clear strategy of when we're going to intervene and when we're not. Like Venezuela, we don't like them there. And they supply drugs, primarily to Europe, by the way, not to the U.S. Most of the drugs from Venezuela go to Europe. But it doesn't matter. And therefore, we maintain the right to intervene, and in the Western Hemisphere. It goes on, flexible realism. We seek good relations and peaceful commercial relations with the nations of the world without imposing on them democratic or other social changes that differ widely from their traditions and histories. In other words, we accept all nations no matter how much they violate their own people's God-given equal natural rights. Everybody's the same. All these countries are the same. And by the way, I don't understand this. We want good relations and peaceful commercial relations. How do tariffs fit into that? I don't know. Even as we push like-minded friends to uphold our shared values. So notice, we are not going to tell Russia or China or Vietnam or Venezuela or any country how they should run their business. We're not going to tell them what's right and what's wrong. We're not going to tell them that they should become more freedom-oriented. We're not going to tell them any of that, except for Western countries. There, we're going to lecture them. We're going to help them bring back civilization, or in other words, Christianity. The primacy of nations, this is straight out of national conservatism. It is natural and just that all nations put their interests first and guard their sovereignty. But not all nations have sovereignty, at least not according to Ayn Rand. If they're violating the natural rights of their citizens, they don't have sovereignty. Sovereignty is from the people. And if the people are opposed to the regime, they have no sovereignty. If the people are being oppressed by the regime has no sovereignty. Sovereignty, I mean, this is the primacy of nations. Whereas we, some of us online, we believe in the primacy of the individual. We believe in the primacy of individual rights. You know, those God-given, whatever they state up there. They write, we stand for the sovereign rights of nations. Nations do not have rights. They do not have sovereign rights. Against the sovereignty-sapping incursions of the most intrusive transnational organizations. What if those transnational organizations are seeking liberty and freedom? Sovereignty and respect. The United States will unapologetically project our own sovereignty. Attempts by foreign powers or entities to censor our disclosure or curtail our citizens' free speech rights, lobbying and influence operations that seek to steer our policies or involve us in foreign conflicts and cynically manipulation of our immigration system, always immigration, to build up voting blocs loyal to foreign interests within our country. The conspiracy theories, balance of power. The United States cannot allow any nation to become so dominant that it could threaten our interests. But on the other hand, we're going to allow China to dominate Asia and Russia to dominate whatever it can dominate. Pro-American worker. What happened to the equal rights? There was something about equal rights. But now American workers are going to get preferential treatment? American policy, we would be pro-worker. Do I count as a worker? Do you guys count as workers? What about the rights of capitalists, business owners, entrepreneurs, innovators, students, children, I don't know, non-workers? This is stupid and contradictory. Fairness. From military alliances to trade relations and beyond, the United States will insist on being treated fairly by other countries. That's right. We should be treated fairly by other countries. We just don't trade with other countries. We trade with individuals in those countries. And we only trade with them. The only reason Americans trade with foreigners is when it benefits Americans. If Americans thought that the foreigners were being unfair, they wouldn't trade with them. If my grocery store, local grocery store, if I think they're unfair, I walk away. Competence and merit. American prosperity and security depend on the development and promotion of competence. I'm all for competence. Competence is good. They continue. The success of radical ideologies that seek to replace competence and merit with favored group status would render America unrecognizable and unable to defend itself. So this is anti-DEI. Here we go. We can, however, right? This is, however, This is an unbelievable statement, right? We want merit, we want competence. However, now you get the reveal of what they really, 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 really care about. However, or at the same time, we cannot allow meritocracy to be used as a justification to open America's labor markets to the world in the name of finding global talent. That undercuts American workers. Now, that is ludicrous on so many different levels, but on the basic level, it doesn't undercut American workers. It elevates American workers. If we can bring in global talent in all realms, then that creates more opportunities, more businesses. It increases productivity. We get more innovators. We get more brains. We get more engineers. We get more people starting gardening companies. We get more products. Products get cheaper, better. Wages go up because productivity goes up. And we get a much better culture because we're getting the best from other cultures who are coming here and reinvigorating American culture. So in every regard, this is just an unbelievable statement, and it shows how this is what they care about. And it tells you that in priorities, this is the next section, priorities, the number one priority, the first priority they list is an end of mass immigration. Who a country admits into its borders, in what numbers and from where, will inevitably define the future of that country. Yeah, if you don't admit the right people, if you don't admit enough people, if you don't admit the right people, if you don't allow for freedom, your country is screwed. Throughout history, sovereign nations prohibited uncontrolled migration, This is what they really care about. In countries throughout history, mass migration has strained domestic resources. Really? Increased violence and other crimes? No evidence of that. Weakened social cohesion? No evidence of that. Distorted labor markets and undermined national security. Isn't it amazing, amazing, that the largest immigration in human history, as a percentage of the population, the largest immigration in human history was immigration to the United States during the 19th century, which was by every definition mass migration. And that basically defined what America is. What would America be without the mass migration of the 19th century? It didn't strain domestic resources. It enhanced them and expanded them. It didn't increase violence and other crime. Well, maybe for a short time when the Italians came in with the mafia. It decreased it over time. It didn't weaken social cohesion. It actually made America America. It didn't distort labor markets. It allowed labor markets to expand dramatically, increase productivity and increase wages. And it certainly didn't undermine national security. It made the American country big and strong enough to be able to take on anybody in the world. From the founding until 1914, actually until 1924, America basically had an open immigration system. Open immigration. Anybody could come. Read your history. And that, not accidentally, is the era in which America went from a third-rate colony to the strongest economy and strongest military in the world. It is during the era of open immigration that America became the strongest, that America became the most powerful economic power. It is during this period where America became America. So don't give me this. Throughout history, God, the American history contradicts everything they stand for and everything many of you stand for. Without immigration, America would be a small, insignificant, struggling country. It would have had, almost all the great entrepreneurs who built this country were immigrants. Rockefeller, Carnegie, Mellon, J.P. Morgan, all immigrants. So the idea that this country would become what it became without immigration is historically ignorant, economically stupid, and motivated by a xenophobic, racist ideology that wants to recast the past in order to justify eliminating freedom in this country today. Second priority after the first, protection of core rights and liberties. Shouldn't that be first? You'd think that would be first. You'd think. And then, listen to this. Regarding countries that share or say they share these principles of rights and everything, these are the countries we're going to be mad at. The United States will advocate strongly that they be upheld in letter and spirit. We will oppose elite-driven anti-democratic restrictions on core liberties in Europe, the Anglosphere, and the rest of the democratic world, especially among our allies. I mean, we don't care what the Russians do to Russia. We don't care what Putin does. We don't care what Xi does. We don't care what any brutal dictator does anyway. As long as Europe stays consistent with these principles as understood by the crazy people who work for Trump. We believe in burden sharing and burden shifting. We want other countries to pay their fair share. Fine. I have no problem with that. Although, again, it has a bunch of BS about trade in here. Realignment through peace. We want to seek peace. We want to seek peace. Yeah, even if we have to compromise and sell out to our enemies, even if we have to sell Israel out to Qatar, even if we have to sell out Ukraine to Russia, the main thing is peace. Economic security. This is the complete ignorance about economics. Trade, balanced trade, which is meaningless. I've talked about it many, many, many times why balanced trade is not something you strive for and not very meaningful. Securing access to critical supply chains and materials. You can do that by deregulating environmentalism here in the United States. Reindustrialization. Not exactly what the United States is actually doing. You don't do it by strategic use of tariffs. Tariffs do the exact opposite. You don't do it. You don't do it by central planning. You do it through capitalism. You do it through freedom. Reviving our defense industrial base. This is all good. Again, to do that, you need more freedom, more capitalism. And you need to encourage entrepreneurship. And you need to encourage the Defense Department to respect entrepreneurs. Energy dominance, again, solution to energy dominance is unsurprising, freedom. Preserving and growing America's financial sector dominance, answer to that is freedom. This is the only place where they say something like, preserving and growing our dominance entails leveraging our dynamic free market system. No, it means establishing a free market system, because our free markets, we don't have free markets in finance. We need more free markets. That's what we need. All right. This is a section, we're running out of time, but this is a section where he talks about reasserting the Monroe Doctrine and, emphasizing Europe. We want to enlist their help for migration and for cartels and for nearshoring manufacturing. The United States must consider our military presence in the Western Hemisphere. This is all those ships in the Caribbean Sea blowing boats out of the water. That's American toughness on display around the world. Blowing people out of the water, killing them with no trial, no declaration of war, nothing. Just the president's whim. We must look to expand our network in the region, identify strategic points and resources. We must prevent others within the hemisphere, other powers being present in the hemisphere. The United States should make clear that American goods, services, and technologies are far better a better buy in the long run because they are higher quality and do not come with the same kind of strings as other countries' assistance. Yeah, you make that clear by basically having free trade and letting companies and individuals in those countries decide who they want to trade with. Anyway, a lot of that. Asia. China got rich and powerful and used its wealth and power to its considerable advantage. So China is problematic, but the Indo-Pacific is already the source of almost half the world's GDP. But it's not a focus, right? This is second to Latin America. Which means the Indo-Pacific is already and will continue to be among the next century's key economic and geopolitical battlegrounds, and we need to be able to successfully compete here. I agree completely. It's just I'm not sure these are the strategies to do it. Since the Chinese economy reopened in the world in 1979, commercial relationships between our two countries have been and remain fundamentally unbalanced. That's right. We get huge benefits from China, and they get just some. I mean, this is such crap. The reality is America benefits and has benefited enormously from trade with China. Now, maybe one can argue we should stop trading with them because they're hostile. Okay. But the idea that they benefited and we have not, or that they benefited a lot and we benefited a little, is just economic ignorant and wrong. It's wrong. Anyway, tariff stuff. Going forward, we will rebalance America's economic relationship with China, prioritizing reciprocity and fairness to restore American economic independence. Trade with China should be balanced and focused on non-sensitive factors. Good luck with that. And balance in trade is not a good thing, particularly not with any particular country. And it cannot be achieved. Since Trump's tariffs have come into play, we are not more balanced. We are indeed less balanced. Trade deficit is larger, not smaller. A robust and ongoing focus on deterrence to prevent war in the Indo-Pacific, that's a good thing, and there's not enough about that rather than this. The United States must protect and defend our economy and our people from harm from other countries. There is no harm that other countries inflict on our economy. There is no, if they subsidize industries in their own country and we can buy their cheap stuff, that benefits us. It doesn't harm us. There are no unfair trading practices. They're not job destroying and deindustrialization. Quite the contrary. I've talked a lot about this. I'm skipping all of that. This is about treaties and bringing India in, and mostly good stuff. U.S. government critical relation with American private sector. Yeah, the best thing the U.S. government can do with the private sector is leave it alone. America, first, diplomacy needs to rebalance global trade relations. No, it shouldn't. It doesn't know how to. This is central planning par excellence. It's exactly the opposite of what made America successful and rich. So stay away. Don't try to guide. Don't try to shape economic issues. This is fascinating. There's a whole section here in the Middle East. What is never mentioned? Islamism, terrorism. Not a word. Not a word. Nothing about supporting terrorism, nothing about terrorism, nothing about the risk of terrorism, nothing. Indeed, a huge pat on the back to Persian Gulf countries. They demonstrate the power and appeal of American technology. We needed reassurance from the Qataris and the Saudis and UAE that our technology is good. We should form coalitions that use our comparative advantage in finance and technology to build export markets with cooperating countries. Just trade with them. What do you need to form coalitions for? What a waste. And again, do these countries fund Islamism? Are we giving them weapons and technology that then they will use against us? Here's the one statement they say. Our greatest advantage remains our system of government and dynamic free market economy. All true. Yet we cannot assume that our system's advantages will prevail by default. A national security strategy is therefore essential. National security strategy is essential. Not a national economic strategy. Not a national economic policy, other than to keep our system free. That's all you need. So nothing about Islamic terrorism. Not a word. It doesn't exist anymore. It's not a threat to the United States. The only threat is immigration and predatory trade. Trade and immigration are threats. Terrorism is not. Almost no mention of Russia. A little bit of China, but not really as a threat. Something about global shipping is important, and we need to deter conflict in Taiwan, which is good. Let's see. Yeah, we want Japan and South Korea to spend more money on defense. I agree with that. Promoting European greatness. Whole section. And our foreign policy strategy is to promote European greatness. So we want to help them prevent their economic decline. And we want to prevent them from undermining political liberty and sovereignty. We definitely want to stop the mass migration into Europe. We, America. This is American foreign policy. We want to, stop creating strife, and we want to stop them from censoring free speech, which is rich coming from Trump, one of the most censorious presidents in American history. We want to prevent them from suppressing political opposition, again, rich coming from Trump, who tried to overthrow an election. Cratering birth rates, I hate to tell you, but they're cratering in America as well. A loss of national identity and self-confidence. It's true. Nothing about Islam here. Nothing about the Islamist threat. It's mass migration, as if all mass migration is the same. Nothing about Muslims, nothing about Sharia, because there's nothing in the whole document portraying Islam as a problem. Because the Qataris might read it, and they might not like it, and they might want their gift back, or they might not invest in Trump towers quite as much, or they might not just be happy with Trump. You wouldn't want to upset the Qataris. We want Europe to remain Europe, to regain its civilizational self-confidence, and to ban its failed focus on regulatory suffocation. That's good. I want them to regain all that and to stop regulating to death, but I don't think that's what you mean here. It is a core interest in the United States to negotiate an expeditious cessation of hostilities in Ukraine. In other words, it's in a core interest of the United States for Ukraine to surrender to Russia. We want to reestablish strategic stability with Russia. Why? The Trump administration finds itself at odds with European officials who hold unrealistic expectations of the war perched in unstable minority governments, many of which trample on basic principles of democracy to suppress opposition. They're talking about Europe. Really? As compared to Russia? A large European majority wants peace. Not true. A large European majority wants Russia to leave Ukraine. A large European majority wants Europe to stand, and America, to stand behind Ukraine in its opposition to Russia. Yet that desire is not translated into policy. Yeah, Putin, what's up with that? In large measure because these governments subversion of democratic processes. This is so hostile to Europe and so friendly to everybody else. It's unbelievable. Yet Europe remains strategically and culturally vital to the United States. Not only can we not afford to write Europe off, doing so would be self-defeating for what this strategy aims to achieve. American diplomacy should continue to stand up for genuine democracy, freedom of expression. Oh God, I wish we had freedom of expression in America under Trump. An unapologetic celebration of America, of European nations' individual character and history. Again, the collectivism. Nothing about individual God-given rights here. promote and revive the spirit and growing influence of patriotic European parties indeed gives cause of great optimism. Here they talk about the right-wing political parties in Europe. That's what they're excited about. That's what gives them optimism about Europe. Right, this is about what they're going to do to Europe and enabling them to do this and to do that, encouraging them to do this and that. Again, Middle East partners are demonstrating their commitment to combating radicalism. A trendline American policy should continue to encourage. Which kind of radicalism? Islamic? Something others? And by the way, is that true? Is Qatar, our big friend and ally, are they spending less money on radicalism? Are they spending less money in the Muslim Brotherhood? Are they promoting terrorism less? If so, I don't know that that's true. Dropping America's misguided experiment with hectoring these nations, especially the Gulf monarchies, into abandoning their traditions and historic form of government. I don't know. I'm speechless in how awful. Let them oppress their people. Let them subvert their God-given natural rights, equal natural rights. Let them promote Islamism. Let them send terrorists. What the hell? Accepting the region, its leaders, and its nations as they are, while working together on areas of common interest. That is their new Middle East strategy. Now, if you think this is Israel-friendly, then you're nuts. Israel makes no mention here, except, right at the beginning, something about American, Arab, Israeli, and Turkish support, something like that, to stabilize and Israel's actions in Iran. But this is basically all about appeasing the Muslim world, all about appeasing the monarchies, all about appeasing the people who funded terrorism against America. And at the long run, the days in which Middle East dominated American foreign policy is both long-term planning and day-to-day execution are thankfully over. So, all right. Well, that is the strategic plan. It's a lot of really, really mixed ideas. A few sentences here and there that are good. A lot of garbage. What you'd expect out of a national conservative kind of led administration. What you'd expect from an administration that views everything from a collectivistic framework. What you'd expect from people who view the biggest threats to America being immigration and drug importation and trade imbalance. One day I'm looking forward to the day where I will read a document like this and agree with one of it. By the way, in 2017, immigration was treated as a security issue, border protection. In this document, it's being treated as an existential threat. Generally, a big difference between the 2017 document and this one. Laura Luma is really upset. She got the document, she read the whole thing, and she did a keyword search. And she says, according to the keyword search I conducted, there is zero mention of the word jihad. There was zero mention of the word Islamic. There is zero mention of the word Islam. There's only one mention of Islamic terror activity, not here in the homeland of the United States soil, but in Africa. There is zero mention of the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party. There is zero mention of the word communist or communism. How is this possible? Well, it's possible because Trump is and there's an anti-ideology, completely anti-ideology. And he's not going to identify communism as a problem because that would identify an ideology, and he's against identifying ideologies as bad. More than anything, this is a document that basically said America is going to expend a lot of energy on trying to reshape Europe, on trying to make Europe like American conservatives would like America to be, or like Europe to be. This is a continuation of the J.D. Vance speech at the Munich, what was it, security conference from earlier this year, where he berated the Europeans about issues like free speech. Now, I'm all for berating the Europeans and moving them towards greater freedom, but that's not what they're doing. They're moving them towards greater nationalism, towards more Christianity, towards more of this reactionary ideology that the modern conservatives adhere to. All right, let's quickly on the pipe bomb. I don't have a lot to say about this, but they arrested the guy who put out the pipe bombs the day before January 6th, pipe bombs that are ultimately disarmed. And for years, the right has been full on conspiracy theory about this. Conspiracies that it was an inside job, that the pipe bombs were done by the Metro Police or by the FBI, that it's part of the big inside job that is January 6th. I mean, full of conspiracy theories around the pipe bombs and around January 6th, that they're all inside jobs. Hannity had FBI Deputy Director Dan Bongino on. And Dan Bongino, of course, when he was a talk show host, from talk show host to Deputy FBI Director, that's quite a promotion. Anyway, he was one of the biggest promoters of these conspiracy theories, that it was all basically an inside job, the pipe bombs. Well, now, when asked about this is what Bongino responded. This is your Deputy FBI Director. I was paid in the past, Sean, for my opinions. That's clear. One day I will be back in that space, but that's not what I'm paid for now. I'm paid to be your Deputy Director, and we base investigations on facts. That is just a perfect statement. In other words, when I was a pundit and had my own TV show or podcast or whatever, I didn't have to base what I said on facts. I just spouted opinions that were facts-less, that had nothing to do with facts or truth or anything like that. Just whatever came to my mind. What the hell? Now that I'm to be FBI, I have to base everything on facts. Now I have to be serious. Now I seek the truth. I don't know. I mean, that just made me laugh. I think that's one of the most hysterical things I've seen in a while. But yeah. All right. All right, let's get back to serious stuff. Let's talk about the Eurovision. And I was also going to talk about Israel, but we're really out of time. So I'll do a separate segment another time about why America should support Israel. I want to do a self-contained video on that. There seems to be a lot of interest in this, and I will talk about that. But anyway, the Eurovision is a singing competition in Europe, and countries compete. Each country sends a singer to represent their country, and they sing. And then there used to be just a panel of judges, a judge from each country, and they would vote on who the winner was. And now they have simultaneous judging where people in each country, not just judges, people in each country can also vote on which song wins. And this is a competition. And it's big in Europe. I mean, European countries take this seriously, and they all watch, and it's a big deal. Israel has participated in the Eurovision at least since the early 70s. I remember as a kid watching the Eurovision. I remember when ABBA, well, maybe in the mid-70s Israel joined, but I remember when ABBA won, the group ABBA from Sweden won the Eurovision. And Israel has won the competition a couple of times, maybe more, but at least a couple of times. Well, this year, the Eurovision is being hosted in, I believe, Austria. And there has been an uproar about whether Israel should be allowed to participate. Because Israel, of course, is a pariah state. It is, it is a genocidal state that has just committed war crimes in Gaza, and therefore should not be allowed to participate in this competition. And the consequence, so there's a big crisis. Basically, Austria said, oh no, Israel's participating, we're the host, and Israel's definitely invited, and they will participate. However, 4 countries have decided they are going to skip the Eurovision this year. And this is a big deal in these countries. Because Israel is there, they will not be. One of these countries is surprising to me. The others maybe not. Ireland, that's not surprising. Very anti-Israel. Very, very anti-Israel in Ireland. Spain, this government is very anti-Israel. I don't think the Spanish people are, but this government is. Slovenia, don't know exactly. And the Netherlands, I thought the Netherlands had a relatively right-wing government, but this is maybe decided by not the government itself. Those countries are not going to be in the Eurovision because of Israel, right? I mean, this is a disgrace. It is absurd. The idea that Israel committed genocide is science fiction, and bad science fiction at that. It is a negation of facts and reality. The idea that Israel is somehow the bad guys in the conflict in Gaza is, again, bizarre and factually completely incorrect. The bad guys in Gaza are Hamas and all those Palestinians. Sadly, a large number of them, maybe even a majority of them, who support Hamas. They are the bad guys. They're the ones who made this war inevitable. They're the ones who started the war on October 7th. They're the ones who use children as human shields. They're the ones who dug tunnels and used hospitals as headquarters. They're the ones who refused to surrender even though it was clear that they lost and the only thing that they were doing was getting civilians killed. They're the ones who refused to release hostages until a bunch of people had to die. They're the ones who slaughtered hostages. Little children, babies. The Hamas and their supporters, a big chunk of the Palestinian people, are monsters. And Israel somehow is to blame here? Israel? Somebody says the Nakba made this war inevitable. Yeah, and the Nakba is the Palestinians' fault. Absolutely. They shouldn't have started a war with Israel. They should have accepted the Palestinian state. They should have tried to kill Jews wherever they could. They shouldn't have, run away, thinking they were going to win the war and come back. Yeah, when you lose a war, you lose a war. There are consequences. The Nakba was a consequence of Palestinian actions. And if you don't know that history, then you shouldn't spout opinions about it. So the bad guys here are the Palestinians, not the Israelis. Israelis are the good guys. Israel is a free country, as free as any European country. Israel treats its citizens equally, including the 2 million Arabs who live in Israel. Equal rights. Israel is a country that should be a model for Europe and the rest of the world of governance. Well, I mean, not perfect, far from perfect, far from perfect. But as compared to these other countries, pretty good. But the lies about Israel. I mean, what these countries are doing is basically embracing another blood libel. Among the many blood libels of the last 2,000 years, the Jews kill Jesus, they drink babies' blood, they kill Christians, they poison Christian wells to infect them with the plague. They kill Palestinian babies just for fun. Same blood libel. It's the same hatred of Jews. It's the same anti-Semitism, motivated maybe by different different fears and different aspects, but it's the same thing. It's disgusting. It's despicable. These European countries and the people that represent them should be ashamed of themselves. All right. What's funny, by the way, is while these countries are accusing Israel of all this stuff, and while certain European countries are not allowing Israel to come and compete in the Eurovision, and even some countries like Germany stop selling weapons to Israel, guess who's buying Israeli weapon systems? Europeans. There was just a fair in Israel, a weapons fair, and European countries sent delegations, including countries that hate Israel, like Norway and Germany and the UK, and half of NATO members came there to inspect Israeli systems. The Germans have just announced that they're the first country in the world to deploy, outside of Israel, to deploy the Arrow 3 anti-aircraft missiles in Germany. It's a $3 billion export deal. So here it says $4 billion export deal. So yeah, Israel is selling its anti-missile technology to Europeans who hate on it. It's something. Yes, Europe needs to be reformed. Not by Trump, though. All right. Let's see. That is the news for this December 5th, Friday, December 5th. All right. Don't have a huge amount of time, so let's see what we're going to do. We've got, how many questions do we have? We've got a few. Not a huge amount. We've got a few. We're doing okay on the money, $142 short for that second hour, which we are now definitely into. So that'd be great. Wes, thank you for the $50 sticker. That is a huge help to getting us to our goal. Thank you, Wes. Let's see, do we have any other stickers? Yes, Mike Dial and Stephen Hopper, thank you for your stickers. Really, really appreciate it. All right, what else? Yes, we have some sponsors. The Ayn Rand Institute. Ayn Rand Institute wants to remind you that ARI live courses are back. You can get the rigor of Ayn Rand Institute's top-notch educational programs at a commitment level that works for you. Courses open to everybody. No application needed. There is no long-term commitment. Take the courses that interest you. They work with your schedule. Take them whenever you want. You can be there live in class, or you can watch recordings. Homework is optional. You can control how much you want to invest in these courses. Courses run 8 to 10 weeks, include access to a personal success coach, help you set goals, stay motivated, and make the most of what you're learning. We've got 3 courses starting in January. Objectivism through Ayn Rand's fiction. Reactionary authoritarianism, from Mussolini to the New Right. I think that's being taught by Nikos. An introduction to objectivist ethics. Wherever you are in your intellectual journey, there is something here to take your understanding and your life to the next level. As listeners to this show, you get a 10% discount with the code 26YBS10. You can find all the information you need about this at aynrand.org/start here. So check it out. Take one of these courses. Alex Epstein is a sponsor of the show and is the leading thinker on all things fossil fuels, energy, electricity, power, generally, and is a great thinker. And you all should subscribe to alexepstein.substack.com, alexepstein.substack.com. His talking points are amazing. They will make you so much a better communicator about these issues that are often contentious, and particularly at the holidays when you get family and everybody and the bunch of climate change people and stuff like that. It's you'll have the talking points. You'll be able to combat them to the extent that you want. Michael Williams from defendersofcapitalism.com, a friend and a colleague of mine. I work for Defenders of Capitalism on a regular basis. go check out his website. He's a sponsor of this show. Defenders of Capitalism is a sponsor of the show. Check out the website, defendersofcapitalism.com. All right, Lincoln, thank you for the sticker. Remind you about Patreon. I only need 4 people now this month to join. You guys keep at every day. I get 1. That's great. By the end of the month, 4. 40 would be good too. We'll start with 4. All right. Let's start with $50 questions. Andrew, the Judeo-Christian premise of focusing on the meek over the strong is a highly irrational premise. Rand once said something to the effect of, I'd like to hear less about the incompetent, disabled, and poor, and more about the strong, successful, and able. Yeah, I don't know that I would call it a Judeo-Christian premise. I mean, Judaism doesn't have much about focusing on the meek. It really is a Christian thing. Judaism is much more this worldly and less altruistic, less explicitly altruistic than Christianity is. But yes, why is the focus on that? The people who move civilization forward, the people who make our lives better, the people who push us to greater wealth and greater spiritual, progress, are the achievers, the competent, the strong, the able, strong intellectually. They're the ones who move us forward. So why are we so obsessed with the meek? Why is every time the question is, but what about the poor? And why, if I say, why do you care? People get offended. Why do you care? I mean, people should answer that question. People should think about it. What is it about the poor that makes you care? It's disabilities that are elevated. What about superior abilities? Extraordinary abilities? Shouldn't they be what we really focus on? Yeah, I mean, that's the difference between an altruistic culture and an egoistic culture. An egoistic culture, I would focus on what's important to me. What's important to me is the people who benefit my life the most. The able, the successful, the wealth creators, the knowledge creators. Rational IP says, excited about Netflix acquiring Warner Brothers, including its film and television studios, HBO Max and HBO. Let's wait and see if the regulators like this mega deal as well. As a film and IP enthusiast, I'm very happy the portfolio is massive. Yeah, I mean, it is really interesting. I thought, wasn't this in play where, what's his name, Ellison's company was going to buy this? And I guess Netflix has stepped in and made a higher offer. I think this is the same thing. Ellison is very connected within the Trump administration, so let's hope somebody doesn't kill this for political reasons. But yeah, I mean, I think I'm all for it. I mean, a lot of these mergers fail. Generally, mergers of big companies usually don't succeed. Usually they're overambitious and the synergies are not really there and the corporate cultures clash and both companies deteriorate. So I'm not a huge fan of mergers, not because of antitrust reasons, but because it's very hard to make a merger succeed. But maybe this one will work. Maybe this one I should be excited about. Maybe it'll enhance the good stuff on Netflix. Netflix has some good stuff, but it could use more good content. I mean, if everything HBO has would be on Netflix, that would be a huge advantage for Netflix, a huge up. Now, what the business model is exactly, how they will make that happen, can they make new, good, original content owned by Netflix? I don't know. We will have to see. Michael, what Trump is doing with these drug boats is extrajudicial killings, i.e. murder. He ordered the U.S. military kill the survivors in the water. This is the kind of war crime that we rightly tried German officers for. Yeah, I mean, I think it's just horrific, but it's not even, I mean, I think the whole thing's a war crime. The second bombing, why is that worse than the first bombing? Right? The first bombing, I mean, if they really wanted to stop the boat, they could have sent a U.S. Coast Guard ship to stop the boat, search it. If there was drugs, arrest the people and put them on trial. The idea that the only way to stop these boats and the only way to deal with this is to kill them without trial, without evidence, without anything, is just insane. It's truly murder. And Congress has not authorized this. It's unconstitutional. It's illegal. It's horrific. And again, nobody cares. Ron, I've always wondered why so-called conservatives that are about freedom on money, etc., are so anti-freedom on personal rights. Being so often against gay rights, right to abortion, it's so inconsistent and irrational. Yeah, I mean, Ayn Rand commented on this years and years ago, and she basically said, look, the left, Marxists, are materialists. So materialists care about the physical world, and they don't care about the spiritual world. They don't care about the personal world. They don't care about social issues. So they want to control and regulate the material world because that's what they care about. And they leave it up to people to do whatever the hell they want in their personal and in their social lives because they don't care about that. Conservatives, she said, they think they're religious. So they fundamentally think the material world is unimportant, insignificant, who cares? So they leave that to be free. But the spiritual world, the personal world, that is the most important thing. That, therefore, must be controlled. So each side controls that which they think is most important. Now, the way the left and the right, though, have evolved is now, both sides view both the material and the spiritual world as important. Both sides, left and right, want to regulate both. And that's where we are now. So the right has given up also on economic freedom. Stephen, today I was able to do my first super sticker and chat in a month on this site, on any site. The previous month, I was only able to do them intermittently. That's weird. So I've missed a lot of income from Stephen. That's weird that YouTube would do that. I have no idea what's going on. Shazbot says, thank you for the show. I wish to express to you my most enthusiastic contrafibularities, whatever that means. I have no idea. I'll take it as whatever. Thank you, Shazbot. Really appreciate it. Andrew, what do you think about the 5-hour meeting between Witkoff, Kushner, and Putin and his aides? They traipsed around Moscow again, doughy-eyed, and then at the end, the Russians said there was no agreement on Ukraine. Please analyze. Yeah, I did analyze that the day after that was happening. And and I talked about the fact Putin gave them a long speech, a long history lesson about, battles in the past, all with an effort to delegitimize the very idea of a Ukrainian state. Basically, all Putin is doing is playing with Trump. He's playing with him. He's basically making fun of him. He dangles this idea, oh, maybe this time I'll compromise. And he doesn't. And Putin has no interest in compromise. He has no interest in ending the war unless it's forced surrender of Ukraine. And he knows that the more he plays Trump, the less Trump will support Ukraine, the less Trump will supply weapons to Ukraine, and the stronger Russia is on the battlefield because Ukraine doesn't have the best weapon systems that it could have to actually defeat the Russians. So it completely makes sense. And again, it was a long meeting because Putin kept lecturing them on Russian history and about how, and by the way, the same thing supposedly happened in Alaska, that Putin brought a big, thick folder with all of his historical claims and all of his historical stories to share with Trump. And Trump lost patience with it. Trump can't be patient for 5 hours. And he lost patience with Putin trying to give him a history lesson. It's what Putin did to Tucker Carlson in that famous interview. Catherine, do you think the current U.S. administration will ever fully stop Europeans from buying U.S. weapons for Ukraine? I don't know. It's possible that they would, but I don't know. Not yet, but it is possible. At some point, Trump could just get fed up and walk away and not sell weapons. Israel hopefully will step in and start selling weapons. That would be cool. Thomas, now is the golden age of air travel. Yes, it is. In spite of all the complaints about terrible service, airlines offer a product, low-cost flights, no frills, that Americans have chosen with their spending habits over and over. Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, air travel is the best that it's ever been. You can fly anywhere. You can fly cheaply. Or if you don't want those cramped seats, if you don't want those cheap, you can buy business class. And it's quite comfortable. And you can fly anywhere in business class. And you fly across the pond to Europe, with lie-flat seats. You can fly to Asia. You can fly anywhere in the world. It's the golden age of flight. Absolutely. In spite of Matt Walsh's, I don't know what to call it. Stupidity is too generous. 1776 yesterday said, race is not a social construct. You're anti-science. You can have a DNA test to get your race. Different races have different average IQs and so on. Bullshit. You can do a DNA test that'll give you your ancestry. It will not give you your, quote, race. I don't know what that is. No DNA test will tell you you're white. There's no whiteness in the test. It'll tell you what your pigment is based on your DNA, but it won't tell you belong to a white race. Who cares what different races do? What matters is your IQ. And the fact is that lots and lots and lots of white people with very, very, very low IQ. And most of those are what you call race realists. So, no, what matters is individual IQ, individual ability, individual traits, individual free will, individual ambition, individual success. Race matters nothing. There is no science to race. And indeed, most of us are mutts. Genghis Khan, who was Mongolian, has his genes in 10% of the world's population. He raped so many women when he took the Hans. The Hans, again, another Asian nomad tribe, conquered vast parts of Europe and raped many women there. And genes from Asia all over Europe. Genes from Africa are all over Spain. Arab genes from North Africa are all over Europe. Not because of recent migration, because of the past. And northern Africans are actually German, have lots of German genes, because it was barbaric tribes conquered North Africa in something like 4 something AD and settled there and stayed there. And nomadic tribes have moved and changed, and immigration is constant. Constant. And there's no such thing as genetic purity. And how many thousands of years do you want to go back? There are a few isolated tribes here and there in the world that have some genetic purity. The rest of you, almost all of you, are mutts. So, no, race is a completely social construct. It is created in order to make some races, some individuals, based on insignificant characteristics like the color of their skin, subservient to others. And by the way, it's only low IQ people who evaluate other people's IQ based on their race. I've never asked anybody what their IQ is. I don't care about anybody's IQ. The ignorance and just, it's unbelievable that in the 21st century, we have gone backwards, away from science, away from reason, away from rationality in our analysis. I've done many DNA tests. I do a DNA test every single year, including 23andMe, which I've done. DNA tests are wonderful. They tell you what diseases you're susceptible to. They tell you what your, certain sensitivities to drugs and certain sensitivities to particular medical treatments. Absolutely Jewish is a social construct. It's a social construct created by some Jews and by many anti-Semites. Am I Jewish? No, I'm not. Why? Because I've chosen to be me. I'm not Jewish. I'm only Jewish when creeps, anti-Semitic bastards like you express anti-Semitic ideas. But I don't consider myself Jewish. I'm Yaron Brook. Yeah, your ancestry came back 99% Ashkenazi Jews. Yeah, you have a long line of people who called themselves Jews going back generations. Is that a race? It's meaningless. And those Ashkenazi Jews, where did they come from? Middle East. They're not Europeans. Me? I'm an American. I was born in Israel. I'm an atheist. I'm not Jewish. I'm not of any ethnic group. I don't believe in ethnicity. I don't believe in race. Am I white? Can I be white and Jewish and an atheist? And reject my Judaism? How does all that work? You guys are medievalists. This mentality of collectivism and tribalism and racism is so primitive and barbaric. It makes me angry because it should have disappeared from the face of the earth decades ago. And you people are bringing up one of the most horrific, primitive ideologies of all of human existence. Jacob, if a vaccine could save 40,000 lives, would it not be made mandatory? If Waymos could save 40,000 lives, would human driving not be outlawed, restricted? No, because the vaccine wouldn't be made mandatory. Vaccine should not be made mandatory. No vaccine should be mandatory. Now, a school can say you can't come to the school unless you're vaccinated, but that's private property. A park can say you can't play in this park if it's a private park unless you're vaccinated. There are a lot of places where you can do that, but the government has no role in telling people forcing people to be vaccinated, and they have no role in telling people they have to drive in Waymos. Andrew, this isn't an essential value of YBS to me, but if I ever feel like getting pissed off, I listen to a YBS show. There's nothing wrong with getting pissed off sometimes. Yeah, but I'm glad it's not the essential value. Thank you, Andrew. Jacob, how much of this is Trump's actual opinions versus J.D. Vance part of the party? If the right gets smoked at the midterms, any chances for a change? No, I don't think you'll see a change. I think it's a mixture of the J.D. Vance. I think it's mainly J.D. Vance. It's mainly the national Christian conservatives, watered down a little bit, so less Christianity, more nationalism, and with a lot of I don't know if they agree with Trump on trade, really, but so a lot of Trump stuff, Trump red meat, like immigration and trade. Now, J.D. Vance might agree with all that. I'm just not sure he does. Andrew, strikes me as a good and properly selfish modern generalization when people, including many entrepreneurs, say how they allocate their time is the essential value to them. Yeah, I mean, how you allocate your time, what you choose to do with your time, what values you choose to pursue, that's a big part of what it means to allocate your time, is an essential characteristic, essential part of being self-interested, being an egoist. All right. We are $55 short of our targets, if anybody wants to help out. Stickers, welcome. Ron, do you know of any objectivist organization in France where I live? I do love it here, though of course not a fan of the economic policies. I've been able to find anything in my searches. No, there really isn't. I mean, there's some libertarians, and there's the guy who translated Ayn Rand into French, who I've met a couple of times. But no, there really has never been significant interest in France for objectivism, sadly. Lincoln, thank you. Lincoln, I hope you're not overstretching yourself. You're doing a lot of super chats lately and stickers, and I know you're getting, you got a girlfriend and you're a student. Don't overstretch yourself. As much as I want your money, don't overstretch. Andrew, was the connection of rationality to goodness primarily a discovery of Rand's or Aristotle? Do you consider one of the key integrations made in intellectual history? Yes, it's one of the key integrations. It's really Ayn Rand. Aristotle views rationality as important, and he identifies it as the identifying feature of man, which is crucially important. But then integrating that with morality, integrating that with values and virtues, that I think is an Ayn Rand accomplishment. So I don't think there's anywhere in Aristotle where he says being rational is a virtue, although he does believe studying and learning is a huge virtue, the primary virtue. But not rationality in terms of using reason to live your life in every aspect of it as being the primary virtue, the integrating virtue. I think that's Ayn Rand's great achievement. And yes, it's one of the great integrations made in intellectual history. And it builds on Aristotle, so it's a two-person achievement. Lincoln, just send my application to ARI's Intellectual Incubator Program. Looking forward to improving my skills in objectivism. Excellent. That's really good. I look forward to seeing you there. Friend Harper, shout out to a friend of mine who just got married to someone they met at OCON 2024. Another reason to come to OCON. Two great objectivists pursuing their happiness. Excellent. And one of the best ways to pursue happiness, marriage. Lincoln, I guess this is a two-part question. Talk to the school's PP&E department about having you speak on campus. Anytime after 5 works, and we should schedule it for before after a Peterson Academy course taping, as the university is about a 2-hour drive from Phoenix and not quite big enough for a separate trip. Yeah, that sounds great. I don't know if Peterson is going to have me back this coming year. I haven't heard from them. As soon as I hear from them and schedule anything with them, I will let you know and we'll schedule that. Really appreciate you doing that, and I'm happy that they're willing to host me. Like numbers, is the more benevolent nature as society, is more benevolence natural as society gets richer? No, I don't think so. I mean, you're seeing the opposite today in America. We're getting richer and we're less benevolent. We're getting more pessimistic and more angry and more unfriendly towards other people. I think as a society gets freer, more free, it begets more benevolent. Benevolence is a feature of freedom, not of wealth in and of itself. Andrew, are the ethics underlying Marxism Christian? Yes, essentially. The ethics of Marxism is sacrifice. It's the idea of sacrificing the individual to the collective, to the group. That is an idea, this idea of sacrifice, that is inherent in Christianity, where the whole idea is you sacrifice the individual to God or to the group or to the poor. But it's essentially about sacrificing the individual. And that is the essential part of the morality. You get your moral virtues, you get your commandments from an authority. The authority is the dictatorship of the proletarian, or the authority is God or a spokesman on earth, but it's an authority. So many, many similarities between, and that'll be a part of the book we write, is to show how Marxism was a secularization of Christianity. Even the sense in which you'll get your rewards in an afterlife in Christianity in Marxism, you'll get your rewards in some fictitious utopia that comes sometime in the future that you might not live to see. Probably not, but it's in another dimension in a sense, and otherworldly in that sense. Jacob, thoughts on Kalshi and Polymarket monetizing almost everything? Thoughts on the culture that spends billions on betting markets like slot machines? Look, I think overall it provides a valuable information. People like to bet on stuff. I don't think there's anything necessarily bad about that. It's a way to express your opinion. And here, when it's not random, right? So the outcomes are not random. Knowledge actually pays off. If you know more about politics than you can predict elections, you'll do better than somebody who doesn't know anything. So it rewards knowledge. I'm all for betting markets or any kind of markets that reward knowledge. So I'm not against this. I think it's a positive move. Enmil, taking this opportunity to support the show and say that as a Spaniard living in Ireland, I find the Eurovision thing pathetic, but sadly not surprising. Yeah, pretty sad. Thank you, Enmil. I appreciate it. What is going on here? Anyway. I have to get you a little hot water. This is Andrew. In a little hot water, do you think anyone who thinks IQ is an important element of life understands objectivism? I mean, it depends what people mean by IQ. I mean, if you mean by IQ inherited intelligence, that is a certain level of intelligence that is inherited. There's no question that we do inherit different levels of firepower, right? Potential. And that, that matters. I don't think it's an important element, but it's there. How you use it, what you do with it, how you initiate it, how you deploy this potential, that's what matters. That's the important element. So to say it's an important element of life, I think you don't understand objectivism. Well, it could be an element of life, but to give it importance, that is taking the potential and giving it way too much importance than it should. Lincoln, there is a company called Nucleus Bioscience focused on advancing IVF treatment to identify genetic diseases before having kids, which is great. Yeah, I mean, it's already being done, and I think it's fantastic. I think it really is fantastic. Lincoln says, last big super chat for a while, cutting back in the coming months. Got to save up for that engagement ring. Don't tell my girlfriend. I promise I'm not going to say anything. Hopefully she doesn't listen to the show. Andrew, $15 short of our goal, guys. 15. Somebody? Trade? Be nice to end on a bang, right? Andrew says, what do you think of this formulation? Aristotle's central principles of epistemology led to the first time to the premise of the primacy of reality over consciousness. I don't know. It might be the other way around, right? Andrew did do his part today, so I'm, Lincoln is all tapped out. And the racists are not going to put anything in. They just want to harass me just want to continue with their pseudoscience harassment. All right, we got $5 from Jacob. So we've chipped away, so now it's only $10. What do I think? I'm not sure that formulation is right? So it's not clear what comes first in a sense. The metaphysics might come first. It might be that the principle of reality over consciousness is what leads Aristotle to an epistemology, to his epistemology, to a reason-based epistemology. They probably go together and certainly reinforce each other. Hierarchically, metaphysics come first. Doesn't mean it's the way it's learned, but hierarchy comes first. All right, guys. There it is. Thomas Schubatum just did $10, and he says, but what about the poor? Why do you care, Thomas? Why do you care? Yes, what about the poor? The poor do well if they're egoistic. Lynn Cordair says, go. By the way, Adultery 3 by Quint is now available on AMA. I think I downloaded it on my Kindle. I think I downloaded it on the Kindle. Because that's how I'll probably read it, right? I'll probably read all 3 on the Kindle, even though I've got hard copies of the first 2. Actually, is it available on audio? Because if it's available on audio, I'll probably just listen to them all. Ron came in with $10. Thank you, guys. Okay, now we've exceeded our target. So thank you, everybody. All right. Tomorrow, there will be a show. I don't know the topic. It'll either be something on the crisis of meaning or something on capitalism. To be determined. Tomorrow. See you all tomorrow. Bye, everybody. Have a great, great, great weekend. Bye.